In 1938, if you wanted to build a technology business, especially one that would eventually generate billions of dollars, conventional wisdom said you needed, like, monumental architecture.
Right, a massive factory floor, an army of lawyers.
Exactly. You needed a pristine corporate boardroom and a massive war chest of venture capital.
Yeah,
But Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard, they had none of those things.
none at all.
They had a dusty one-car garage in Palo Alto, California, and exactly $538 to their names.
Which is, frankly, nothing, even back then.
Right. It wasn't enough money to build an empire. It certainly wasn't enough to, disrupt an industry. But it was exactly enough to build one incredibly niche, highly specific piece of audio testing equipment.
And that extreme financial constraint, that inability to do anything other than solve one narrow problem brilliantly, that is the exact blueprint we are unpacking today.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tearing down the big money myth of the tech industry.
Because it really is a myth.
It totally is.
Yeah.
So whether you are an aspiring entrepreneur or maybe you're the unofficial IT support person for your entire extended family.
We all know one.
Right. Or you're just someone fascinated by the mechanics of how businesses actually scale from zero. We are looking at the foundational DNA of the tech giants today.
And more importantly, we are going to map that exact garage startup DNA onto the modern, independent IT and electronics repair business.
Yes. We're pulling from this incredible source guide we have, which outlines the actionable starting points, the exact milestones for growth, and the business skills you need to turn a modest side hustle into a thriving, recurring revenue machine.
It's all about managing the startup finances with minimal initial investment. That's the core focus here.
So let's go back to that Palo Alto garage. With their $538, Hewlett and Packard built an electronic audio oscillator.
Which, just to be clear, was not a consumer product.
No, not a world-changing platform, just a highly specialized tool, right?
Specifically, they built the HP Model 200A. And to understand why this matters to someone starting an IT business today, we have to look at the engineering mechanism behind it.
Okay, break that down for us.
Well, an audio oscillator is used by sound engineers to generate specific frequencies to test acoustic equipment. At the time, competitors were selling oscillators for around $200.
Which is a lot of money in 1938.
A huge amount. And the worst part, they were notoriously unstable. They fluctuated. But Hewlett, while studying at Stanford, figured out something brilliant.
This is the part I love.
He realized that by using a simple, everyday incandescent light bulb as a temperature-dependent resistor in the feedback circuit, he could stabilize the output.
Wait, so they literally used a light bulb? Like a household item?
Yes, just a regular light bulb to solve a complex engineering bottleneck.
That is insane.
It was a brilliant, low-cost hack. Because of that light bulb, they were able to price their highly stable oscillator at $71.50.
Wow, they undercut the entire market.
Exactly. They didn't have the capital to design a proprietary, expensive thermal regulation component, so they used what was cheap and available.
That is the essence of constraint breeding innovation right there.
It is the ultimate filter. When you only have $500, you cannot afford vanity metrics. You can't lease office space. You can't hire a branding agency.
You're just focused on the work.
You are forced into an extreme, painstaking focus on the craft itself. Their lack of capital wasn't a handicap. It was a mechanism that guaranteed their quality control.
And that specific innovation caught the attention of Walt Disney, of all people.
Right, because Disney was working on the movie Fantasia at the time.
Which was pushing the absolute boundaries of cinematic sound.
They were developing Fanasound, this early stereophonic sound system, and they needed to test the massive arrays of speakers they were installing in theaters.
So they needed reliable oscillators.
Exactly. They bought 8 of the HP Model 200B oscillators. That single contract, born out of a $500 constraint, was the catalyst for a company that would eventually define Silicon Valley.
I look at that story, and I immediately contrast it with the startup culture we see today.
Oh, it's night and day.
Today, the instinct is to build a sprawling mansion before you even know how to pitch a tent. The culture demands that you be a platform or, a disruptor.
People want the title of CEO before they've actually delivered a single unit of value.
Yes. But Hewlett and Packard were just technicians. They didn't disrupt the audio industry with a massive marketing campaign.
No, they disrupted it by writing a better circuit. The modern distraction is the belief that scale precedes value. It's entirely backward.
I think that makes sense for the listener.
Well, scale is merely the multiplication of value. If your initial unit of value is zero, if your core technical skill is unrefined, multiplying it by $1 million in venture capital just gives you a larger, more expensive zero.
That is such a great way to put it, a larger, more expensive zero.
Hewlett and Packard established a foundation of absolute reliability. If your foundation is strong, a single opportunity, like that Disney contract, is often the only catalyst you need.
So if you are listening to this right now and looking at your own constraints, the question isn't, how do I get a massive loan to start my business?
Definitely not. Taking on debt early is a trap.
The real question is, what is my $500 scenario?
Hmm.
Let's say you have a few hours on a Saturday, a basic toolkit, and a deep understanding of Windows operating systems.
That limitation is actually your advantage.
Right. You can't offer enterprise-level server installations, so you don't. You offer hyper-focused residential network troubleshooting.
And you do it with a level of care and precision that no big box retail store can match.
That extreme focus builds reputation.
And reputation is the only currency that matters in the early stages of a service business. You become known as the person who actually solves the problem rather than the company that just processes tickets.
Hewlett and Packard proved that extreme quality builds a legacy. But there's a danger there, isn't there?
What do you mean?
Well, if you wait until your service is a flawless Disney-level masterpiece, you might suffer from analysis paralysis.
Oh, absolutely. The perfectionism trap.
You might miss the market entirely while tinkering in your garage, which forces us to look at the opposite approach.
The strategic advantage of launching something that is, frankly, a bit ugly.
Yes. Let's fast forward to 1976, another legendary California garage, but a very different philosophy.
We're talking about Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne. The inception of Apple Computer.
When people envision Apple today, they picture the unibody aluminum MacBooks, the seamless glass iPhones, the pristine white packaging, right?
Flawless closed ecosystem design.
Exactly. But the Apple I, their very first product, was the complete antithesis of that.
It wasn't a computer in the modern sense at all.
It was just a naked, exposed printed circuit board.
It was incredibly raw. And to understand why, we have to look at the technical and financial bottlenecks of 1976. Tooling a custom plastic case for a computer required tens of thousands of dollars in plastic injection molds.
Which they obviously didn't have.
Wozniak and Jobs didn't have anywhere near that capital. In fact, Jobs sold his Volkswagen Microbus, and Wozniak sold his highly prized HP 65 calculator just to fund the production of the bare circuit boards.
Talk about managing startup finances with minimal investment. They literally sold their personal items.
They did. And when Paul Terrell, the owner of the Byte Shop, ordered 50 fully assembled computers from them, they were backed into a corner.
Because they didn't have cases, they didn't have keyboards, and they didn't have monitors.
No, they delivered the raw, populated motherboards. The end user had to supply their own power supply, their own keyboard, and wire it to a television set.
By traditional corporate standards, launching an unpackaged, highly demanding product like that is a failure of polish. It's incomplete.
But in the entrepreneurial reality, it was a vital milestone. It was a strategic early failure that led to long-term success.
Because it solved the core burning problem, right? Hobbyists in 1976 didn't care about a beautiful aluminum chassis.
They wanted computing power. They wanted access to the microprocessor without having to solder 100 individual components themselves.
So Apple solved the hardest part of the equation, the logic board, and let the user figure out the rest.
And that imperfect launch generated the immediate revenue and, more importantly, the market feedback necessary to build the Apple II.
Which did have a beautiful case and a built-in keyboard.
Exactly. If they had waited until they could afford plastic injection molding, another company would have captured the early microcomputer market.
They shipped an imperfect product because the utility it provided outweighed its lack of polish.
And this translates so perfectly to the modern IT entrepreneur.
It really does. I talked to so many incredibly skilled technicians who are just paralyzed by imposter syndrome.
It's so common. They think, I can't launch my mobile tech support business because my van doesn't have a custom vinyl wrap yet.
I don't have branded polo shirts. I don't have a slick automated app for booking appointments like the Genius Bar does.
It's not polished.
Right. And that is an obsession with the chassis rather than the engine.
Think about the customer whose hard drive has just crashed, taking 10 years of family photos with it. Do you think they care about your custom vinyl wrap?
Not for a single second.
They care entirely about your ability to run data recovery software and retrieve those JPEGs. The utility is the value, the polish can come later.
Let's really dig into the psychology of that customer interaction, because this is where the technician transforms into a hero.
It's a huge shift in perspective.
We often think of value in terms of technical specifications. We think we are selling a terabyte of storage or a faster processor or a malware-free registry.
But that's not what the customer is actually buying.
Never. A customer buys the removal of friction and the restoration of normalcy.
Yes. Technology businesses do not succeed because the founder possesses the most esoteric technical knowledge. They succeed because that knowledge is weaponized to make life easier for the end user.
Let's give the listener an example. Imagine a frantic parent on a Tuesday night. The home Wi-Fi network has collapsed, the router is blinking red, and their child has a massive online assignment due at 8 a.m. the next day.
A total nightmare scenario for a family.
Exactly. The parent has spent 3 hours unplugging things, resetting things, Googling incomprehensible error codes on their cellular data, and their stress levels are just through the roof.
At that moment, the technological infrastructure of the household has failed. And you, as the independent technician, walk in.
You identify that there's an IP address conflict caused by a newly installed smart TV, or maybe the router's DNS settings have been corrupted.
You log into the gateway, reconfigure the DHCP scope, flush the DNS, and within 20 minutes, the network is stable.
And when you hand that parent their laptop and the internet is working again, they aren't going to ask you about the intricacies of the domain name system.
They aren't going to remember the specific command line prompts you typed.
What do they remember?
They remember the profound emotional relief. They remember that you gave them their Tuesday evening back, and you saved their child from failing an assignment.
You are not selling a network configuration. You are selling peace of mind.
And that emotional resonance is how a raw, unpolished, one-person operation operating out of a spare bedroom builds fierce customer loyalty.
You connect authentically through the act of solving a deeply frustrating problem. It's incredibly liberating when you realize that.
You don't have to project the illusion of a massive corporation. You just have to be the person who fixes the pain point.
So Apple showed us that early imperfection is fine as long as the utility is high. But how do you structure the business to actually reach those customers without taking on massive financial risk?
Right, because we want to minimize those initial setup costs.
We've talked about the engineering constraint of HP and the polish constraint of Apple. Let's look at the inventory constraint.
Ah, yes. The college student who completely inverted the traditional hardware business model.
Michael Dell, University of Texas at Austin, 1984, operating out of room 2713 of his dorm.
To appreciate what Dell did, we need to understand the supply chain mechanics of the 1980s computer industry.
Set the scene for us. What was it like?
If you wanted to buy an IBM or a Compaq, the manufacturer built the computer, sold it to a distributor, who sold it to a retail storefront, who finally sold it to the customer.
Every single step in that chain required physical warehousing.
Yeah.
And every middleman took a massive markup.
And the hidden danger in that traditional model was inventory depreciation.
Because of Moore's Law, right?
Exactly. The observation that computing power doubles roughly every 2 years was in full swing. If a retailer bought 50 high-end computers and stored them in a back room, those machines were rapidly losing value every single month.
By the time they sold the last one, it was practically obsolete, and they had to discount it heavily just to get rid of it.
Holding hardware inventory was incredibly risky.
So Dell looks at this inefficient, high-risk chain, and he decides to bypass it entirely.
He adopts an action-first mindset, but a very specific kind of action. He didn't take out a loan to buy a warehouse full of parts.
No, he adopted a just-in-time manufacturing model.
Dell would place advertisements in computer magazines. A customer would call his dorm room, tell him exactly what components they wanted in their PC, a specific hard drive, a specific amount of RAM, and they would pay for it.
And only after Dell had the customer's money would he order the components, assemble the machine, and ship it.
He generated a negative cash conversion cycle. He got paid before he had to pay his suppliers.
He held zero speculative inventory. That is an absolute masterclass in managing startup finances and minimizing risk.
It completely eliminated the threat of depreciation. He was never stuck with obsolete motherboards because he only bought a motherboard when a customer had already paid for it.
And because he cut out the distributor and the retailer, he could sell a custom-built, higher-performance machine for significantly less than the big brands.
He sold a service, the custom assembly and direct delivery, rather than sitting on static inventory.
Let's map that dorm room, zero inventory mindset onto the modern landscape.
It's more relevant now than ever.
If I'm starting an IT business today, Dell's model is the ultimate template. I don't need to rent a storefront and stock it with 50 graphics cards and a wall of laptops, hoping someone walks in.
Doing so would be financial suicide for a beginner today. The margins on retail hardware are razor thin, often in the single digits.
You can't compete with Amazon or Best Buy on hardware pricing.
It's a losing battle. The modern independent technician must realize that the massive opportunity isn't in selling the hardware.
What is it in?
It is in servicing, configuring, and managing the hardware that the customer has already purchased.
And the sheer volume of that hardware is staggering. The modern residential environment is radically different from what it was even 15 years ago.
Oh, completely unrecognizable.
Back in the day, a household had one family computer. It was a bulky beige tower sitting on a desk in the den. If it broke, you took it to a repair shop, left it for a week, and picked it up.
Today, that model is entirely broken because the technology is deeply embedded into the architecture of the home itself.
Look at the modern residential ecosystem. You have multiple laptops for remote work and school. You have smartphones and tablets for every family member.
You have smart TVs streaming 4K video. You have Wi-Fi-enabled refrigerators, smart thermostats, video doorbells, IP security cameras.
Voice assistants in every room. Every single house on a typical suburban street is basically a small, highly complex data center.
That is not an exaggeration. A typical four-person household easily has 20 to 30 distinct IP addresses on their local network.
And the vast majority of homeowners possess absolutely zero systems administration training.
None at all. They plug in a mesh Wi-Fi system they bought off the shelf, connect 30 devices to it, and then wonder why their Zoom calls keep dropping while the TV is streaming Netflix.
The network is congested. There are DHCP conflicts. There's interference on the 2.4 gigahertz band. The homeowner is overwhelmed.
They are living inside a data center, and they don't have a digital plumber.
That's the perfect term for it, a digital plumber. They cannot unplug their entire house and take it to a retail repair counter.
Which creates an infinitely renewable demand for on-site and remote IT support professionals.
The pain points have moved from the hardware breaking to the software and the network failing to communicate.
And when that communication stops, modern life halts. Remote workers lose income, students fall behind, the security cameras go offline, the reliance is total.
So if you are the person in your friend group that everyone calls to set up their new printer or to figure out why their laptop is running so slow, you are already interacting with this ecosystem.
You already have the foundational skills.
The only difference between you right now and a successful business owner is intention, structure, and pricing.
You don't need a massive laboratory with clean rooms and microscopic soldering stations to start servicing this demand.
You just need to apply Dell's low overhead model.
Precisely. The misconception that you need heavy capital expenditure to start an IT business is completely false. You start with high demand, high margin, low overhead services.
Let's categorize those. We can put the most lucrative entry points into two specific buckets, right?
Yes, the first bucket is software and configuration.
Let's break that down for the listener. What specific services live in this bucket?
Virus and malware removal. Windows or Mac OS optimization, which means cleaning up startup programs, removing bloatware, updating drivers.
What about email? That's always a headache for people.
Huge headache. Email migration is a great service, like moving a client from an old POP3 ISP email address to a modern Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace environment.
And network troubleshooting, setting up automated cloud-based data backups.
The brilliant thing about that entire list is that the capital requirement to execute those jobs is practically zero.
You literally need your own reliable laptop, an internet connection, a USB drive loaded with diagnostic tools like sysinternals or malware scanners, and your brain. That's it.
You are monetizing your knowledge and your time, not your hardware.
And this is where the psychology of the customer comes back into play, right? Because a technician might look at that list and say, wait, why would someone pay me $100 to set up a wireless printer?
Or to optimize their Windows startup, can't they just watch a YouTube tutorial and do it themselves?
It's the most common imposter syndrome thought out there. This is too easy for me, therefore it has no monetary value.
But that is a fundamental misunderstanding of value.
Explain that.
Think about the printer setup scenario. Yes, the raw sequence of pressing buttons is simple to you, but the customer isn't paying for the button presses.
What happens when the customer tries to do it themselves?
They spend an hour trying to connect the printer to the wrong Wi-Fi band. The installation wizard hangs, the print spooler service crashes.
They get frustrated, they argue with their spouse, And their Saturday afternoon is completely ruined.
Exactly. They are paying for the bypass. They are paying you to walk in, use your muscle memory to bypass all the common pitfalls, and resolve the issue in 15 minutes.
You are selling the restoration of their time and the elimination of their frustration.
Time is a non-renewable resource. People will gladly pay a premium to protect it.
Okay, so that's the first bucket. What's the second bucket of low overhead services?
Light hardware. This involves physical upgrades that do not require microscopic soldering or advanced diagnostics.
So no thermal imaging cameras or board-level repairs yet.
No, keep it simple. The most common and profitable example is upgrading an older mechanical hard drive to a solid-state drive, an SSD, and adding RAM.
This is such a high-value service. Picture a customer who has a laptop that is 5 years old. It takes 4 minutes to boot up, and every time they open a web browser, the machine freezes.
They think the computer is dead, and they need to spend $1,200 on a new one.
But you know that the bottleneck is just the spinning platter of the mechanical drive.
Right. So you offer to clone their entire system onto a lightning-fast SSD and double their memory for, say, $250, including parts and labor.
The transformation is staggering. The laptop boots in 15 seconds. It feels faster than when it was brand new.
To the customer, you have performed actual magic.
You've saved them $1,000, and you've preserved all their custom settings and files, so there's no learning curve.
And here is how you apply Michael Dell's inventory model to this to minimize your startup costs. You do not buy the SSD until the customer has agreed to the quote and paid a deposit.
You hold zero inventory.
Zero. You order the drive online with next-day delivery, you perform the labor, and you collect the balance. Your financial risk is absolutely minimized.
And if we want to talk about minimizing overhead even further, we have to talk about the holy grail of modern IT support.
Remote support.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's explain the mechanics of this for someone who hasn't used it professionally. How do you actually do this without being physically present?
Remote support is the ultimate expression of the low overhead model. When you drive to a client's house, you are burning fuel, putting wear and tear on your vehicle, and most importantly, you are losing unbillable time sitting in traffic.
Remote support eliminates all of that friction.
You utilize software tools known as remote desktop utilities, or more professionally, an RMM, a remote monitoring and management agent.
So how does it work?
With the client's permission, you install a small, lightweight software agent on their machine. When they encounter an issue, say their email client stops syncing, they call you.
You pull up your management dashboard from your kitchen table, initiate a secure, encrypted tunnel to their computer, and you instantly see their screen.
You take control of their mouse and keyboard, diagnose the issue, and fix it while they watch or while they go make a cup of coffee.
It is instantly scalable. You can service a client in your local neighborhood, and 10 minutes later, you can troubleshoot a software conflict for a client 3 states away.
Your geographic limitations vanish completely, and because you have no travel time, your profit margins on remote support are significantly higher.
This is how you build the initial cash flow of the business. You rely on your brain, your remote tools, and light zero-inventory hardware upgrades.
You let the profits from these services accumulate. You do not go into debt.
Right. You don't buy a $2,000 thermal imaging camera for motherboard repair on day one. You earn the right to buy the advanced tools by successfully delivering the fundamental services.
The business funds its own evolution.
So we have our services, we have our low overhead delivery model. Let's do the actual math on how this translates from a weekend hobby into real bankable income.
Let's look at the financial proof of concept.
A very realistic baseline scenario is charging an average of $125 per service call or repair job.
Depending on your local market, of course. If you are in a high cost of living urban area or a rural town, you might adjust that up or down. But $125 is a solid professional average for a resolved IT issue.
And if you're doing this as a side hustle, your goal isn't to take over the world in month 1. Your goal is traction.
Exactly. Let's say you utilize basic local marketing posting in neighborhood Facebook groups, leaving flyers at local community centers, relying on word of mouth.
And you secure 20 jobs in a month.
20 jobs a month at $125 is $2,500 in gross revenue.
Let's contextualize that workload for the listener. 20 jobs a month is roughly 5 jobs a week.
That is highly achievable for someone working a full-time 9-to-5 job.
That's 1 job every evening, or knocking out 3 on a Saturday and 2 on a Sunday. It requires hustle, yes, but it does not require you to quit your day job and risk your livelihood.
And because your overhead is so incredibly low, remember, you have no office rent, no expensive diagnostic hardware, and no speculative inventory. The vast majority of that $2,500 is pure profit.
That is a life-changing amount of side income for most households. It pays a mortgage, it funds a family vacation, it obliterates credit card debt.
But beyond the actual dollars, there's a massive psychological shift that happens when you hit that milestone.
It is the ultimate validation. It proves that strangers in your community value your specific skills enough to hand you their hard-earned money.
It proves your marketing messaging is connecting. It proves you have a viable business engine.
But once you hit that consistent rhythm of 20 jobs a month, you arrive at a critical fork in the road.
This is where scaling methods come in.
Right. Because if you want to stay a side hustle forever, you can keep doing one-off repairs indefinitely. And there is absolutely no shame in that.
None at all. It's a great side hustle.
But if your ambition is to grow this into a stable, scalable, full-time business that doesn't rely entirely on your daily physical labor, you have to change the model.
This is the most crucial strategic pivot in the life cycle of an IT business. You must transition from a reliance on manual, one-off repairs to offering managed, recurring IT services.
Okay, let's unpack this deeply, because the terminology here can be confusing. Let's define the old model first. What you've been doing to get to that $2,500 a month is what the industry calls break fix.
Break fix is exactly what it sounds like. A client's computer breaks, they call you, you fix it, and they pay you an hourly rate or a flat fee for that specific repair.
What is the fundamental flaw with building a long-term business entirely on the break-fix model?
There are two massive flaws. The first is extreme revenue unpredictability.
You have absolutely no idea if your phone is going to ring tomorrow.
You might have 15 broken hard drives to fix this week and 0 the next. That feast or famine cycle makes it impossible to accurately forecast your cash flow.
Which makes it impossible to safely hire employees or sign a commercial lease.
It's like being a firefighter. You only get paid when the house is actively burning down.
Which means your revenue relies entirely on someone else experiencing a disaster. It is highly stressful, and you're constantly dealing with clients who are in a state of panic or anger because their technology has failed them.
A firefighter is the perfect analogy. And the second flaw is a fundamental misalignment of incentives.
Explain that, because I think a lot of people don't realize this.
In a break-fix model, you are financially incentivized for your client's technology to fail frequently and take a long time to fix because you bill by the hour.
And the client, conversely, wants their technology to never break and to be fixed instantly.
Exactly. You are structurally at odds with your own customers' desires.
So how does the managed services model, the MSP model, fix this?
Managed services completely flips the paradigm. Instead of being a firefighter who waits for the blaze, you become the building inspector who ensures the fire never starts.
I love that. So you approach a small business, say a local accounting firm with 10 employees, and you offer them a proactive service agreement.
Right. You tell the accounting firm, I will install my advanced remote monitoring and management agents on all 10 of your workstations and your server.
I will actively monitor your network health 24/7.
I will ensure your enterprise antivirus is always updated. I will automate your data backups and test them weekly.
I will patch your operating systems in the background so you are secure against zero-day threats. I will manage your Microsoft 365 licenses.
And if your staff has any day-to-day tech issues, they call my help desk directly.
And here is the mechanism that changes everything. For all of this proactive management and unlimited remote support, you pay me a flat, predictable fee of $1,500 every single month.
Monthly recurring revenue, MRR. It is the lifeblood of a mature tech business.
Let's look at how this aligns incentives. The client loves it because their IT budget is now fixed and predictable.
They aren't hit with a massive, unexpected $3,000 emergency bill when a server crashes, because you prevented the crash from happening in the first place.
Their staff experiences less downtime, which means they maintain higher productivity.
And from the IT provider's side, it's brilliant. Your incentive is now to make their network as robust, silent, and bulletproof as possible.
Because if you set up their systems perfectly and nothing ever breaks, you still collect the $1,500 a month.
The less physical labor you perform, the higher your profit margin becomes on that contract.
Your RMM software does the heavy lifting.
It can detect that a hard drive is reporting pre-failure smart errors days before the drive actually dies.
Your software alerts you You silently order a replacement drive. You schedule a maintenance window at 2 a.m. on a Sunday.
You clone the drive remotely or quickly on site, and the client comes in on Monday morning completely unaware that they were hours away from a catastrophic data loss.
You are selling invisible uptime. But wait, I want to push back here for a second.
Okay, what's the issue?
If I'm doing my job perfectly, and the systems never go down, and the client never sees me sweating and frantically typing in their server closet, won't they eventually look at that $1,500 monthly invoice and say, everything works fine, we don't need to pay this guy anymore?
We're canceling the contract.
Right. How do you prove value when your job is to make the problems invisible?
That is the exact paradox of the MSP model, and it requires excellent client communication to overcome. You solve it through reporting and strategic business reviews.
So you don't just stay invisible.
No. Your RMM tool generates monthly reports that you send to the client. The report says, this month, we silently blocked 412 malware intrusions, we applied 84 critical security patches, and we successfully verified 30 daily backups.
You make the invisible labor visible.
Precisely. You essentially remind them of the fires that you extinguished before they could even smell the smoke.
You shift from being a repairman to being a virtual chief information officer, a VCIO.
You sit down with the business owner once a quarter and discuss how technology can help them achieve their business goals. You become a partner in their growth.
I want you, the listener, to visualize the math on this scaling method. We talk about hustling every evening and weekend to do 20 break-fix jobs a month to make $2,500.
Which is hard work.
It is. Now, imagine you focus your energy on securing just 10 small business contracts at $1,000 a month.
That is $10,000 in monthly recurring revenue, $120,000 a year.
And you start the first day of every single month knowing exactly how much money is coming in. You aren't hoping someone spills coffee on a laptop.
You have stability. You can hire a junior technician to handle the low-level password resets. You can lease a commercial workspace.
You have built a true, scalable enterprise.
But, and this is a massive caveat, to secure those lucrative, high-trust monthly contracts with business owners, knowing how to swap an SSD or configure a router is no longer sufficient.
The technical skills are just the entry ticket to the arena. To win the game, you have to evolve from a technician into an entrepreneur.
The screwdriver is not enough. The transition from a break-fix side hustle to a managed service provider is entirely gated by your mastery of critical business skills.
We're talking about customer communication, marketing, sales, value-based pricing, time management, and the implementation of business systems.
I feel like this is where we hit a massive psychological wall with tech-minded folks.
Oh, I absolutely include myself in this. We love the binary logic of a motherboard. We love that code either compiles correctly or it throws an error. It's clean, it's objective.
But we actively dread the messiness of human emotion, of sales, of marketing, of trying to price our services.
It feels uncomfortable. It feels almost sleazy to try and sell someone on a contract. How does a pure technician shift their mindset here?
It is the most common hurdle, and the solution is a radical reframing of what sales and marketing actually are. You have to realize that business skills, when applied correctly, are just another form of problem solving.
Okay, tell me more about that. How is sales engineering?
They are engineering principles applied to human behavior and organizational workflow. When you look at a slow computer, you diagnose a technical bottleneck like not enough RAM, and you prescribe a hardware solution.
Right.
When you are sitting across from the managing partner of a small law firm, you're doing the exact same thing, just at a macro level. You ask them questions to diagnose their business bottlenecks.
How much billable time do your paralegals lose every week because the document server keeps freezing?
Exactly. You discover that network downtime is costing them $5,000 a month in lost productivity. You have diagnosed the bottleneck. The sale is simply you prescribing a reliable fix.
You say, I can eliminate that downtime with a managed network solution for $2,000 a month.
You aren't pushing a useless product on them like a sleazy used car salesman. You are offering an elegant, highly profitable solution to their operational pain.
That is a fantastic way to frame it. You're an engineer troubleshooting a business workflow.
Yeah.
And what about marketing? Marketing feels so boastful to someone who just wants to put their head down and do good work.
Marketing is simply the act of educating your community that you exist and that you have the capability to solve their pain. If that law firm doesn't know you exist, they will continue to suffer through their server outages.
By marketing your services, you're extending a lifeline to businesses that desperately need your expertise.
And as you secure these clients, you run into another massive bottleneck: yourself.
This is the scaling issue again. If you are doing all the technical work, configuring all the firewalls, answering every single phone call, doing the bookkeeping at midnight, and trying to post on social media,
You become the single point of failure in your own business.
you reach the absolute limit of your personal bandwidth. Exploring scaling methods means realizing that hard work alone will not grow the business further.
You must systematize. You must build machinery that operates independently of your physical labor.
This means integrating automation and AI tools. If you don't build systems, you don't own a business, you just own a really demanding, high-stress job where you are the worst boss you've ever had.
Systematizing starts with a PSA, Tool Professional Services Automation.
What does that do?
It's software that integrates your ticketing system, your time tracking, your customer relationship management, and your billing into one unified dashboard.
So when a client emails a request,
The PSA automatically generates a ticket, routes it to the right queue, and starts a timer. When the ticket is closed, the PSA automatically generates an invoice and sends it to their accounting department, fully integrated with your Stripe or QuickBooks account.
you are automating the administrative overhead. And with AI tools becoming so accessible, you can automate even more.
You can use AI to instantly draft knowledge-based articles for your clients based on your ticket notes.
You can use AI to analyze complex error logs from a server crash to pinpoint the root cause in seconds rather than hours. You leverage technology to run the business of technology.
But here is the final, inescapable truth of this industry. The technology you are deploying, the software you are managing, and the cybersecurity threats you are defending against do not sit still.
The business landscape is in a state of constant, aggressive evolution. The half-life of technical knowledge is incredibly short.
Think about it. New processor architectures, entire shifts in operating systems, the explosion of cloud-native infrastructure.
And highly sophisticated, automated ransomware attacks. The skills that made you an absolute expert in 2019 are dangerously insufficient for the landscape of today.
Which is why continuous education is not a luxury. It is a fundamental requirement for long-term relevance. In this industry, resting on your laurels is a guaranteed path to obsolescence.
The most successful independent technicians understand that they are perpetual students.
But how do you actually keep up? The sheer volume of information is paralyzing.
And if you try to figure everything out on your own, you're relying entirely on trial and error.
Trial and error is perfectly acceptable when you are a teenager tinkering with a spare computer in your bedroom.
But when you are a managed service provider responsible for the financial data of a local accounting firm or the patient records of a dental clinic, trial and error on a live production server is a massive, unacceptable liability.
It destroys your reputation and exposes you to severe legal risk. You can't guess your way through a ransomware mitigation.
You absolutely cannot. This is where we see the profound value of membership communities and professional peer groups.
The isolation of being a solo IT entrepreneur is dangerous. By joining structured professional communities, you gain access to curated, vetted knowledge.
Step-by-step repair training, real-world case studies, and updated software guides. Think about the ROI, the return on investment of that kind of access.
Let's say a massive zero-day vulnerability drops. A new exploit that targets the specific firewalls you have deployed across all your clients.
If you are alone, you might spend 10 hours frantically reading conflicting forum posts, trying to cobble together a script to patch the vulnerability, sweating bullets the entire time.
But if you are integrated into a professional community, the moment that threat is identified, the collective intelligence of hundreds of other experts kicks in.
Someone in the group analyzes the threat, writes a secure mitigation script, tests it, and shares it with the community.
You receive an alert, an explanation, and the exact steps to patch your client systems within hours.
It's like downloading a software patch directly into your own brain. You are bypassing years of painful trial and error by absorbing the hard-earned experience of the collective.
Why would you try to invent a complex service-level agreement contract from scratch, staring at a blank Word document, when a community of successful MSP owners already has a template that has been legally vetted and proven to close deals?
You wouldn't. The habit of successful self-taught tech entrepreneurs is that they proactively seek structured education.
They do not view community membership or coaching as an expense. They view it as the highest leverage investment they can make in their own operational efficiency.
And this brings us full circle. This connects directly back to our opening discussion about Hewlett and Packard, or Jobs and Wozniak.
We romanticize the myth of the lone genius in the garage, isolated from the world, inventing the future in a vacuum.
But that's not the reality.
Not at all. Jobs and Wozniak were deeply embedded in the Homebrew Computer Club. They were actively sharing ideas, showing off prototypes, receiving brutal feedback, and learning from other brilliant engineers in their community.
The garage was just where they assembled the parts. The community is where they forged the ideas. No enduring tech business is built in total isolation.
Whether your immediate goal is to generate a flexible side income of $2,000 a month to pay off student loans, or to build a $1 million managed service provider with a fleet of branded vehicles and a team of technicians, the underlying principles remain exactly the same.
Solve a real, visceral problem for the end user. Do it with intense focus, even if your resources are heavily constrained. Don't let a lack of corporate polish stop you from delivering raw utility.
Minimize your financial risk by avoiding speculative inventory.
Scale your income by transitioning from the unpredictable chaos of break-fix repairs into the stable, proactive environment of managed recurring services.
And finally, systematize your operations and never ever stop learning.
It is a path of incremental, consistent value creation. You don't have to build a global empire. You just have to help your first customer.
And then your second, your reputation compounds. One solved network issue builds a relationship. 10 relationships build a reliable revenue stream.
The history of this industry isn't written by people who started with millions of dollars in a glass boardroom. It's written by technicians who started with what they had where they were.
In a garage, in a dorm room, or at a kitchen table.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to mull over as you look at your own technical skills and your own local environment. We've seen that the blueprint for success doesn't require a master plan for world domination.
It just requires the willingness to engage with a single constraint and solve a single problem.
If every billion-dollar tech company on Earth and every successful local IT business in your city started merely by solving one seemingly minor, highly specific problem for a handful of frustrated people, what is the one small, messy, annoying technology problem sitting right in front of you today?
What is the neighborhood pain point you've been ignoring because it doesn't seem big enough or polished enough to build a business around?
Because history proves, time and time again, that messy little problem you're looking at, that might just be your Palo Alto garage. Thanks for spending this deep dive with us. Take that first step with the tools you already have in your hands, and we'll catch you next time.